Maybe print 5 of these. Yeah, just share. I want make sure everyone's in a group.
So Jack's going to do it right in front of us. Unless you want to write it as well.
You don't have an extra 400.
I find that writing stuff so much in my brain.
It forces you.
Otherwise, I'm like, and everything now, people are like, here, read this thing online. I'm like, I need to.
Who wanted food?
And that was really nice to hear, some really nice explanations of fundamental stuff we're learning. And it ain't easy for us to habituate that thinking. And I was very impressed at what I heard. So thank you for thinking it in depth and coming to the frayed edges and getting a deeper understanding. I won't have time to answer any questions about it because we want to get onto this class. I'm ambitious today. We're doing 2 classes in one. Not. We'll see what happens. But we've done that so far. And today we're going to do 6 and 7 hopefully because I'm going to share 2 Lojongs. But before that, I'm going to share a little story. Yeah. So whatever awesomeness you got from the little mini workshop, dedicate that pushing of learning, questioning and thinking and remembering. Dedicate that so it ripens in your world, meaning give it away to other people that need insight. Okay? So here we go. Has anybody heard of this Lojong called Freedom from the 4 Attachments? Has anybody heard that? No? Good, I can tell you anything I want, and then we can. Okay. Shimpa Shidrel. Shimpa Shidrel. Freedom from the 4 Attachments. According to Geshe and Michael Roach, this is the best, top of the line, incredible, fancy, most impossibly awesome Lojong he knows. Yeah? And it's not long. When he did this class, he only did one of the most important verses of this Lojong and then explained all the details. This is by a Sakya scholar called Kunga Nimpo.
I'm just wondering, did you guys review what Lojong is at the beginning?
We did not. Do people need to know what Lojong is?
I think it would be good.
Let's do it. I don't want to do it. No, I do. Lo means mind, but in one of the explanations we've had from a commentary about this texts, lo here means heart, because that's where you feel your world. That's where you experience your world. So mind in the West has a tendency of being your brain, and that's not what they're talking about here. Jong means to purify, it means to develop, to train, to build a muscle for. So Lojong is a genre of texts, a genre of wisdom that teaches us how to develop our heart to be in a certain way so we can fastly get to enlightenment rather than slowly. Yeah? And this genre of text really came to be written around the 1100s because it was passed down orally from teacher to student as secret advices between practitioners who had learned all of the Buddhist scriptures and tried to practice Vinaya and tried to practice all the practices. But then their teacher and them were like, hey, but really what do I do when I'm in the subway, in the year 900 AD, and the subway is full. And I'm angry because the lady next to me smells, right? So then they'd say, well, here is a condensed version, a one-pager of what you do in the subway of the year 900. So Lojong is a series of a genre of texts that began to get written down in Tibet around the 1100s because a second wave of translation was happening in Tibet. All these weirdos from India were coming into Tibet, which was a bunch of farmers, yak herders, right, with this incredibly advanced psychological, philosophical view of existence. So here I am, a yak herder, right, and I get these weirdo people looking from India with hundreds of years of knowledge from the Buddha. And I'm a farmer, and here all these weirdos talking high philosophy. And it was this match made in heaven. They were like, what the hell are you talking about? And so you meet these people called Lotzawas, which were called translators. Yeah, a Lotzawa was a translator, the first weirdo interceptors. Yeah, who tried to get these philosophies from a foreign land, from people that looked very different to us and did very different things to us, and helped us get a language around it, get metaphors around it, and get practices that were relevant to us as yak herders around it. And they lapped it up. It sounds a lot like New Yorkers, right? We have our own little precious, very important luxury lives. And here's these weirdos from Tibet coming over here looking strange. Like they look strange, they dress strange, they speak a weird language. We don't understand the whole cultural context. And we're asking their help to help us put it in a very simplistic, Western, selfish, consumer, capitalist point of view. We're the yak herders. Except instead of herding yak, we herd self-interest. Instead of looking after sheep, we look after money. Instead of looking after fields, we take care of our own backyard and mow the lawn and have white picket fences for me. Yeah? And with that, with our credit cards and fancy clothes and busy careers and important identities on Facebook, there's these weirdos dressed in robes trying to talk to us about philosophies we can't understand because we're yak herders. So Lojong became a way that these translators, these Lotzawas, helped us yak herders understand a really deep experience of these wisdom teachings. The collection of hundreds of years of master and student practicing real things, not bullshit intellectual stuff. Real things that transform your experience of being and therefore transform your world. And that's what Lojong is. Is that good?
Yeah.
Cool.
How do you spell Lotzawa?
Lotzawa, L-O-T-S, Lotzawa,
A-W-A.
A-W-A, yeah. Okay. Woo! Thank you for forcing me to do that. Okay, so I want to talk about attachment, okay, first. Freedom from the 4 attachments. Okay, we're going to get another boring list. But the word attachment here has so much implication for us Westerners, because they told us, when these weirdos came over, right, they told us, no self. Let go of the self. Let go, no attachment to the self. And we took that from our credit card, career-focused, Facebook-centric worldview that I don't exist anymore. If I'm going to be a Buddha, I can't exist. I'm not important. I can't like things. If I'm not going to have attachment, I can't eat pizza. Yeah, like we have this weird image. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. We have this weird image when I say you're going to develop yourself into a Buddha, and you must let go of attachment. It means I'm going to be totally broke, right? I'm going to live in a cave.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but you see, we have these associations, and we've got to ask, for us to really catch on to the meaning of these Lojongs, do we understand what letting go of attachment is? And this is a really beautiful Lojong for that purpose. It's very good for us yak herders, for us farmers, to figure out what these high philosophies mean. Yeah. What I failed to mention about our farming perspective, our Western frame of reference, is that it includes we know it all. Yeah. It includes where we have science and we can make airplanes, and therefore we know everything. Yeah. That's why we're so happy all the time. Yeah. We've really found the ultimate meaning of life here. We can make computers, and we can make money market exchange rooms. We can have iPhones, and therefore we have found perfection.
Well, we've been to the moon.
And we have been to the moon. Yeah. And them yak herders, the weirdos, have not. but they seem to have this permanent thing on their face that has white teeth shining at you, and this kind of peace in their eyes, and looking at us as, well, oh, you're weird. Yeah, and we don't understand why. So in addition, we have this kind of arrogance that we know all of history couldn't be as good as how good we got it now, because materially we're experiencing some goodness. And that's something to watch out for. So, needle pulling thread or planting?
Do you want one?
Yeah, could I please? Let me share a little story. We're going to have a quick break after this story, and it's very important. It looks like a lineage teaching, like I'm going to tell you a bunch of people's names, but I want you to look a little deeper because it means a lot more, okay, than that. So the first thing I want to tell you about is how this Lojong, this freedom from the four attachments advices came to be. And to do that, I have to tell you about the Sakya school. Is one of the four schools of Tibetan Buddhism. It's one of the oldest ones. And the head of that, or the beginner of that, was a layperson like you and me, one of the original people that met these Lotsawas. And his name was Konchok Gyeltsen. And he decided to open a little dharma center, not unlike this one, yeah, except it was on some white cliffs on some part of Tibet, yeah. And on this cliff they made a little building, and they would gather all the other lay people that had their yak jobs and did their yak things, and they started talking about these weird yak. They started talking about these very strange ideas that came from that foreign land. Yeah, so he had a Lotsawa as a teacher himself, and then he had a son, because everyone was a layperson at the time. They're studying these ideas, so they thought, why don't we have a little Dharma center and have classes on Thursday and maybe on Tuesdays? Yeah, on the edge of the class. Seriously, don't think that when Buddhism came into Tibet, all of a sudden 15,000 monks appeared and nuns appeared on the edge of a cliff with massive monasteries that just popped out of thin air, and everybody was all of a sudden meditating, seeing emptiness directly, and they figured it all out. It took 700 years for the Lotsawas to translate the canon from India to Tibetan.
So this is the beginning?
This is the second wave of translation. The beginning was around 600-700, right? Where, with Atisha and the rest. So this is the second wave. And the second wave really made it serious and deep, and so it established what we know now as the four schools of Tibetan Buddhism and so on. But we're talking about this Sakya group, yeah? And Sa means earth, and Kya means whitish or pale, yeah? And they called it that because in 1073, is that when I put it there? In 1073, Konchok Gyeltsen made this little dharma center in the middle of nowhere with his buddies, yeah, and his wife, and he had kids, and then their friends came over and they started studying and translating and keeping this stuff. And so after some time, when that place became big and famous, which is what I'm about to tell you how that happened, they called that group the Sakyas, the White Cliff, the White Earth group, the Three Jewelers. Yeah, that weird group that made this stuff available. Yeah, and so there's this. He had a son, and that son, I can't remember his name, had another son, and his name was Kunga Nimpo, or Sachin Kunga Nimpo. And get this, when Kunga Nimpo was around 12 years old, this is his grandfather, and that's him, right? As an older person, when this dude, Kunga Nimpo, was 12 years old, still all lay people, there is this Lotsawa, this translator, who knows Sanskrit and knows Tibetan, and his name was Bari Lotsawa. He was hanging around White Cliff Monastery, teaching this 12-year-old kid secret practices to reach enlightened beings. Yeah? So he's an important lineage holder of the first person that started this special Dharma group, who had a son who grew the Dharma group, and then the grandson, at the age of 12, this weirdo hanging around the monastery called Bari Lotsawa, this mega translator, is going, hey kid, you're 12 years old, you're part of something important, you can't let it die with you, you have to turn it on in a special way. Let me teach you some secret practices that can... So he was teaching him Tantra at the age of 12. Yeah? There's some special practice to reach beings of wisdom, in particular Manjushri. And the 12-year-old kid is having some trouble. He encounters some serious psychological blockers because you can't reach a state of wisdom without seeing your shadow, your dark side. So then he teaches him a set of other practices to overcome those things. And around the age of 12, he has this experience of wisdom where he meets Manjushri. Yeah, so Sachin Kunga Ninpo meets Manjushri at the age of 12 because this special being Bari Lotsawa had taught him how to make contact with that person. What did I say?
Who is Manjushri?
Who is Manjushri? Manjushri is the Buddha of wisdom, the representation of Buddha as wisdom. It's a deity, if you like. It's also your experience of wisdom. And he looks like, have I got Manjushri up there? No, so that's Bari Lotsawa, right? Teaching the 12-year-old kid.
And it's got a cool sword.
And it's good, yeah. And here comes the kid having an experience of Manjushri, who has this flaming sword that cuts through ignorance, cuts through the idea that the world comes that way, and teaches you a deep understanding how the world comes this way. And he dictates and gives him the Lojong, freedom from the 4 attachments. So that's how this story begins, right? Let me quickly...
How do you spell Manjushri?
Manjushri.
Thank you.
Yeah, did I do that right?
Yeah.
Cool. So then he has a son. I won't tell you too much about him other than he was a very important lineage holder for the Sakyas. He's important for the secret practices of Vajrayogini in our particular lineage. And that's secret practices. Sorry, I'm giving you names. He has another son, Gyeltsen, Gyeltsen, and he's extremely important for our Vajrayogini lineage if you ever get there. He also wrote a commentary to Freedom from the 4 Attachments. And that's what we're actually going to study, his text. Okay? What else do I tell you about him? Other than he was amazing. Vajrayogini lineage, cool. Then he has a nephew, which you heard about from the previous Lojong, right? And he's extremely important in this lineage of understanding these wisdoms in Tibet at the time. He memorizes the 8,000 verses in Sanskrit and is reciting it day and day out. He becomes the most powerful figure. He becomes Tsongkhapa at this time. He becomes the most powerful. Like he becomes the Dalai Lama of the time. Does that make sense? Yeah, he becomes super important for Tibet and holds the entire wisdom in the country. Yeah, he knows this stuff. He, what else do I tell you about him? He grows old and he has some sons and nephews, etc. Still a bunch of lay people. He grows old, and at this time, Mongolia and the Khans, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, right, were taking over Asia, China, all the way to Vienna. They've reached Vienna, and in one day they killed 400,000 troops on the outskirts of Vienna. This is the Khans, okay? And the Khans took over China, the Stans, all that region. They just took over the world, and they left Tibet alone because Tibet, the rulers of Tibet at the time, made this deal with them. They met them at the border, and they said, if you leave us alone, we'll give you a bunch of gold and ransoms every year. yeah, and just let us be. And they said, okay, no problem. So they were sort of protected, yeah. But Mongolia grew strong and powerful. When Kublai Khan died, when Genghis Khan died, they stopped paying the ransom. It's okay. And then his successor, Prince let me check it out, Godan, sort of came claiming his ransom. It was like, come on, pay up, right? But because there was already Buddhist influence, he says, I know you have this dude, the Sakya Pandita, who's like super wise, and he wrote this letter. This letter's still in the Buddhist canon. He writes this beautiful, this is the prince from Mongolia saying, we know you have this super wise person over there. We would like very much to invite him to teach us, Godan Khan, right, to teach us this thing called Buddhism for Mongolia. And if you don't, we will burn all your monasteries on this. So you're cordially invited to come. So the letter is like very nice at the beginning, and then it's like, we will burn you. Yeah. So there's still that letter around. So Sakya Pandita says, okay, I'm old and I'm done, and I've got a bunch of nephews that I'm teaching these teachings to, and I'm move over and I make my way over to Mongolia, and he can't get to Mongolia because every town he stops at, they're like, oh my goodness, the Sakya Pandita, can you teach us please a weekend teaching? Can you do a weekend? Can you do a week retreat and so on? So he sends his two nephews ahead to teach Godan. They reach Mongolia. For your information, they teach Godan. He spreads Buddhism right around Mongolia, all through Mongolia. And by the time the Sakya Pandita gets there, they're already converted. And they're practicing Buddhism really lovely. Yeah. One of his nephews, what else do I need to tell you about that?
Are they still starting to burn monasteries at that point?
No, they became Buddhists. They're no longer burning monasteries, which is really cool. And so one of his nephews is Chugya Pakpa, and so we'll just call him Pakpa. And Pakpa is the one now helping the Mongolians write a whole new alphabet so they can translate these ideas from the weird letters, right? So Mongolians now have an alphabet that they can speak thanks to this. They go to the court of Kublai Khan in Beijing. He teaches the supreme ruler of Beijing at the time, Kublai Khan. And he meets this weirdo called Marco Polo from the West. And he teaches him some stuff. And right now you can look at Marco Polo's writing, and there's a mention of Pakpa, who is this person, right? So Buddhism spreads right throughout Mongolia, and Mongolia stops being so aggressive. So what happens to their empire starts to shrink. It used to take 3 years to get a message from Mongolia to the border, right? And so it begins to shrink. And around 1770, I want to say, around the 1700s, Mongolians are returning home to their homeland, and they write a letter to the then Dalai Lama saying, what's a good night to cross this river, which is a huge river that we have to cross from the west back into the east. And the Dalai Lama tells them it's his special night. And the Dalai Lama of the time, in 1770, tells them this to cross this thing. So they're camping on the western side. Half of them cross early. That night happens, and the river, there's a freak storm or something, and the river is just running for weeks. And so a bunch of people are stuck on the western banks of that river, and they call it Kalmyks, yeah, which are Mongolians stuck in the west. It comes from something west or something, right?
This Monday at the UN, there's going to be a Kalmyk art show, and
that's
the whole thing.
That's awesome. Yes. So these Kalmyks are stuck in the west, and they live now in the west, and they don't return home. A bunch of Mongolians come, a bunch are stuck over there. It's now World War II, and these people are being prosecuted. A bunch of them, that group, make their way to Howell, New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And they open up a little Dharma center. They make a little community there.
You skipped a couple years.
Sorry?
You skipped a couple years.
Just a few. But that culture grew in the West, and they were from Mongolian origin. They still kept their language and so on. They actually didn't come to Howell, New Jersey initially. They went to some place, I think it's Arizona, I can't remember. They hated it, and then they came to New Jersey. Right? Like it was too weird or odd or something. They went to some other part of the United States, and they said no. So then the whole community moved after World War II as refugees. And then Geshe Wangyal gets sent here from the Dalai Lama and from the Tibetans to teach some weird new young students in the 70s, right? Like Jeffrey Hopkins and Uma Thurman's dad, Bob Thurman, right? In this tiny Mongolian community, yeah? And then the Dalai Lama sends Ken Rinpoche who was at the time helping the Dalai Lama teach all these children in India who were refugees from Tibet. So he sends them over here on loan for 3 years to continue teaching that weird group of Westerners, right? And then a lot of students come to him, including Geshe Michael Roach, who's started this center thanks to Ken Rinpoche. So we are directly connected to this lineage of the Sakyas, particularly through our Vajrayogini lineage, which still maintain an oral transmission from that time to now. And it's thanks to all these freak accidents and the dedication of this tiny little Dharma center on a white cliff, right? And some 12-year-old kid who gets to practice this thing, and you get to hear your own lineage, your own family trees experience of how to get enlightened. So I wanted to give you that little bit of information before we go into this text, because it's inside you. It's here. It comes directly to you from where it started. So prime your mind, and then we'll get into the actual. It can get in as a totality. And the way I'd like to do that, unlike what my teacher did, he taught one of the verses and then broke it down. I'd like to ask for a volunteer that has a really beautiful reading voice that sounds wise. That's you, right? Yeah. So bring a cushion, because you're going to be sitting to my left. Yeah. No, you're going to sit to my right. Sorry, I have to think of that. Apologies. Is that good? I'm going to give you the highlighted verse first so you can hear it. Then I'll put some markings on the reading, which is in Tibetan. Sandra, Hector, pleasure. Yeah, we did not prepare this earlier, okay? Just so you know. Here's the text.
This is my first class.
Dharma improv.
So I imagine you're a thespian. Did you like that? That was a joke. Yeah, it wasn't. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to do that. And you're going to stop when you see number 2.
First thing that's
When you see that. Don't read that. Just that.
Yeah.
Don't read that one. Start that 2 there. So end here.
So this and that.
Start reading from here all the way until you get to number 2. And before you go there, let me introduce the text, okay? We have to ask ourselves what the hell attachment means, because we're going to get schooled on 4 freedoms from these attachments, and it's not what you think it is, okay? It's not that you're going to have to be stoic meditator with no, like a Zen kind of state of mind. It's not that. It's not that you don't have to care about anything. Whatever bull idea your mind is projecting around letting go, it's not that. It's more. It's deeper. So we're going to get a hint in a second from Sandra, and this is the important verse. And then I'm going to break up, because the whole Lojong is broken up into these 4 sections. But this is the verse that summarizes the 4 sections. And you'll hear Sandra get to it in a second. But imagine you were connecting to that 12-year-old boy who is your family tree in relation to our lineage here. And he's having this blissful experience of a Buddha telling him these words for you. So you have to be 12.
No problem. Now,
Now.
from my very heart, I go for protection. To the kind one, my Lama, and to my close angel, the compassionate one, I beg that you grant me your blessing. I'll give the advices of freedom from 4 attachments, for those who see no point in what's not dharma, and who hope to practice in keeping with it. I beg you now to listen well. A person who is still attached to this life is no dharma practitioner. A person who is still attached to the 3 worlds has no renunciation. A person who is still attached to getting what they want has no bodhisattva. A person who still grasps to things has no world view. Here's the first. Give up attachment to this life. Anyone who keeps the ethical life or practices the 3 of learning, contemplation, and meditation only for goals of this life has slipped into someone who is no practitioner of the Dharma. Suppose that first we talk about the ethical life. If you keep it, you've planted the roots of a higher life. You stand on the stairway to freedom. You've found an antidote that cures every form of pain. There's no way you can do without living the ethical life. But if you do so, because you're attached to goals of this life, then you've planted the roots for living in the 8 worldly thoughts. You'll disparage those whose ethics are less. You'll feel jealous of those who keep their ethics well. The ethics you follow yourself will be done for the recognition of others. You will plant the seeds for the lower realms. You will slip into being a person whose ethical life is a sham. A person who follows the arts of learning and contemplation gains resources that will allow them to reach all knowable things. People like this in the world are a lamp that dispels the darkness of ignorance. They're guides us who show us the way to go and possess the seeds that will bring them the body of reality. There's no way you can do without learning and contemplation. But a person whose learning and contemplation are done attached to worldly kinds of goals is only gaining the resources which will allow them to reach the state of pride. They will speak badly of those whose learning and contemplation are less than theirs. They will be jealous of others whose learning and contemplation are good. The people around them and all they own will never be very stable. They are planting roots to grow as a birth in the lower realms. They have slipped into learning and contemplation that is lost to the 8 worldly thoughts. Every person who follows the practice of meditation gains a medicine that removes the mental afflictions. They plant the roots of freedom. They plant the seeds of enlightenment. There's no way you can do without learning to meditate. But a person whose meditation is focused upon achieving worldly kinds of goals is a person who in the midst of the forest is living in a downtown crowd. The prayers that they recite are worthless blabber. They put down those who study and contemplate. They feel jealous of others who meditate. Their meditative concentration has slipped into one-pointedness of mind. Upon those same 8 worldly thoughts.
That's the first thing. So you hold on to that. That's the first thing. Thank you for that. Yeah. Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom, says to his 12-year-old.
Wow.
That was verbatim?
Well, he wrote this, right? He wrote this text after he had this magical experience. He wrote this text. Yeah. And then, he passed it on to that whole lineage, all the way to Ken Rinpoche, to here. So what he's saying is, you Dharma practitioners, right? I don't know if you got it, right? It's like you think you're practicing this high advanced thing, right? But if you've got any of this idea that you're practicing it for worldly things, you ain't no practitioner at all. He's talking directly to people that know practices, know to meditate, know about ethic, has understood something about dependent origination and emptiness, something about compassion, something about bodhicitta. He's talking to you, yeah? And Manjushri says to this kid, yeah. Manjushri says to this kid, the first, so it's summarized, right? So the first of the four is this one. The first freedom is to the attachment of this life. If you don't have that freedom, you're no practitioner, right? Because you're doing it for, I'm such a good meditator, I'm such a, yeah, etc., etc., he's saying to us. So don't let your mind slip and poison with the 8 worldly thoughts the idea that you're such a thing. Because your old conditioning of samsara, of this life, has got you by the cojones, right? No answering, just talking for now, unless it's really, really must know.
That's kind of important.
Go for it.
What are the 8 worldly thoughts?
We covered it before, don't have time to do it now. Like in, yeah. Do you remember those or no? No? I'd like to get through the 4 today, which means definitely we're staying till 10 if you would like the teaching. If not, you're not getting it. Yeah. So let me tell you what very specifically the commentary says about what it is to be attached to this life. And the first thing it says is, you're attached to this life if the way you choose, what you choose to do with this life, has any one of these 4 things. And the first thing is you choose what you do with the totality of your life and with individual moments of your life. If your choices about that is based on bakchaks, do you remember what bakchaks were?
Seeds. Ripening?
Seeds, but what do?
They stay in your storehouse.
They actually create your impulses.
Oh,
Right? These bakchaks are your impulses. And all of you, if you're here, you already got awesome impulses. You want to take care of others. You're nice people, right? But you're attached to this life. If you make your ethical decisions, what to do with your life and your day-to-day life, if you're basing that only by your bakchaks, by your impulses, thinking they're self-existent, thinking that they exist that way and you're that kind of person, you've got attachment to this life. They were produced. You caused these good habits you've got right now. Do you get what we're saying here? If we say, oh, I'm a kind, I meditate well, I was a vegan from when I was a child. Yeah, that's not self-existent. You have attachment to this life thinking, that's just the way I am, that's just the way things are. This life I have is just that way. It ain't that way, you made it that way. It will turn to shit for you, like everything in samsara, if you don't know how to keep it and grow it. So to think that your impulses dictate how you choose what to do, what not to do, when things go well or when things go bad, then you're attached to this life. He's saying, look deeper than you've been looking. Secondly, he says, sorwa, which is your feelings. I feel good when I do this. I have nice feelings when I take care of the kids in the orphanage in Nepal. That's a nice feeling. If my decisions are made out of my feelings only, there are also imprints that you've planted there before. You're attached to this life, thinking that your feelings are self-existent and that's going to ride you. You need more. He's saying you need more. You dharma practitioner, you think you got this. Don't trust your instincts, because they will stop. Don't trust your feelings to make decisions on this world, because they change. One moment the kid's nice, and the next time the kid in the pool is a pain in the butt. Right? And if I follow my feeling, I'd punch him in the face. No, seriously, if I just follow my feeling, but something else keeps me civilized. Right? It was and I fluctuate between these things. He's saying, don't do that. Then he says also, you think it's your culture or your ma and pa, which means your conditioning, yeah? You think it's your culture? You think it's okay to trust what your government says? Seriously, we're in Western world. We have it right. We figured it out. You were born into this. It's also caused. It was conditioned. If you think that's it, we've got the best lifestyle and I'm going to make my ethical decisions day to day and I'm going to choose what to do with my 24 hours because this culture says you should go to university, you should get a degree, you should get pregnant, you should have a baby, you should both work, you should get the picket fence, you should then be a successful career person. If you follow your culture, then with this precious life, if you say, oh, I've done it right, you're going to die with a nice car, and well, without it, you're going to die without it. You would have died collecting a nice car, a nice diploma, a nice picket fence, and you're going to leave that nice little packet of stuff you've done with your life because your culture said it was the right thing to do. Yeah, you're going to go bye-bye, and the baby, the picket fence, the job, the whatever it is that you've exchanged for your precious human rebirth, if you've based your decisions on that norm, the cultural norm, you're attached to this life. You're not really a practitioner. And then he says, your ma-pa, your teachers. I had Mrs. Newey as my music teacher, and she was supposed to know what my life was going to be like. She was infiltrating my mind at the age of 12 and 13. It wasn't Manjushri for me. It was Mrs. Newey, and she had this huge beehive. Even though it was the 70s, she had this big hair. And she had very bad lipstick, and she had this one movable beauty spot, because beauty spots were the thing, but we would have bets on which quadrant of her face the beauty spot. But if I went to... we did, the kids and I were like, it would be top left-hand corner of the mouth. Anyway, who were your teachers that were teaching you what you should do with your life? What were they really teaching you? So we have these cultural influences. We have your ma, your pa, your friends, your teachers. You have these feelings that you have these impulses, and they're all trying to inform you on what to do with your precious human life. And here, Manjushri is saying to this kid, that if you think any of those are it, you're screwed. Because they're not. Look, your government, around the 1770s, when they were doing the Constitution, whatever that, is that right? 1770s? They were discussing whether black people were human. Or not. If you followed them, if you followed your government, you think they're different now? The discussions we have now? Should we, how much should we bomb Syria?
Yeah.
You know, if you base what you do with your human life based on any of the place you landed, without using a well-grounded, logic-based understanding of where your reality comes from, you're not a Dharma practitioner, he's saying, on the first verse. Do you hear this? You don't like it, you've got a sad face. I imagine the 12-year-old kid didn't like it either. You know, think about it. If I followed what I was told in school, I'm Australian, so I'm luckier than you guys. Yeah, we get 4 weeks a year holiday. I get to work 95% of my life away to buy back 5% of my life, to do what, with that 5%, anything I want. I have to give someone 95% of my breath and my attention and my energy so I could keep 5%. It doesn't sound like a good idea to me. And I'm stuck in it because that's where I'm in. I can't not pay my rent. Do you hear me? Yeah? So he's saying, you want to practice Dharma, you want to turn the key to this thing that wakes you up. Don't be sleepy and think all the good things you got right now, even if you're a nice, good meditator, a nice, kind person, you take care of orphanages, very nice. Don't be sleepy. There's something inside you ticking. All the stuff, all the conditions of your environment, all that stuff is a projection. Even the kindest things you've ever done, there are also impulses that must finish if you don't perpetuate them. And if you're perpetuating them, if you remember this with the 8 worldly thoughts, with some kind of I am important, I am there, you're going to screw up this whole thing. I'm a better meditator than you because I do 6 hours. You do 5? Yeah, I did 6. You see what I mean? Our measures, the stuff we're taught to do our measures is wrong in terms of practice. What should your mind be doing? Honestly, like I know it's not good news, right? Because some of us have degrees. Change your perception of that stuff at the end of this Lojong, hopefully. So that's what he's saying. Then I'm not going to go through this metaphor. You can, throughout the commentary, the metaphor from, actually no, this is another commentary from Sakya Pandita. He says, this first quarter of the freedom from the 4 attachments has this metaphor in it, right? That life is like a bubble because it's an illusion, right? The problem is you want to avoid all this goodness that you've got right now from wearing out, and then you have this lower experience or lower birth. The medicine is meditate on death, how short your life is, and the result will be that your practice will actually become a dharma, will actually become a thing that turns on wisdom for you, a real dharma, right? And then if you want to be a practitioner, I thought I'd add this from Liberation in the Palm of Your Hands. Actually, no, it wasn't. He mentioned it here. That's the next one, sorry. He says, if you want to practice, then you better get a very well-grounded, well-reasoned understanding of what? Karma and emptiness. The only 2 logical and experiential realities that drive your reality. The pen thing, right? That's why my teacher, Geshe Michael, your teacher, hopefully, has been drilling that throughout the world non-stop. If you don't have that as a well-grounded understanding of where reality could possibly come from, even though it sounds upside down to our experience, then you're never breaking free from this life. You're going to maintain your attachment to it. So first of all, if you want to practice something, you need to ultimately get that experience in your heart as a habit that sees the world that way. And what does that do? That goes through a path of preparation, then you learn, and then you meditate on it. On what? On the fact that things don't have a nature on their own side. The world that you're experiencing isn't like that. Your own life, you being kind, isn't like that from its own side. It's not permanent. This life isn't permanent. Everything changes, and we know that as a fact. Everything changes. Where is the change coming from? Out there? Impossible. It has to come from you. So, which means you have the power to change it in the direction you know, if you know which levers to point. Thanks again for the lever. Metaphor. Are you hearing me? Karma and emptiness. Karma and emptiness. I don't care if you read it 1,000 times, if you have to hear the pen thing 1,000,000 times, at some point, because karma is also empty, and emptiness is also empty, and learning is also empty, at some point, you will change the way your mind perceives the model for how reality works, and you'll grab an all-encompassing model called karma and emptiness that can actually give you the levers to transform every experience. So the things that you're being forced to experience as a beautiful flower, a beautiful relationship, a beautiful home, a nice dharma center, all this must end. Because it's got ignorance in it, because you think it comes this way. Because we do things towards it with ignorance. If you have an ultimate understanding of where it comes from, then you know exactly which levers to press to maintain it and grow it. The hints about attachment here is that the little goodnesses we have in life, they're not wasted. They are tiny examples of what is possible for our experience of being. The sweet taste of ice cream, the magnificent connection in a relationship, the love you feel for a child, all these things that later turn into, that child's annoying, right? They cheated on me, the person I loved cheated on me, or that awesome career I got broke down. All that stuff, my youth, my hair fell out again after the implants. I don't have that yet. Because we have this wanting that those things will keep us happy, when they don't, disappointment, right? An understanding of where a good feeling could ever come from in a relationship and a bad feeling could ever come from in a relationship, meaning something I did to others in the past, projected upon something that doesn't have that nature, that I am forced to have that experience. If we know that that's a truth, and you've got to figure out for yourself in meditation, you can get the teachings over and over, but I can't do that for you. But once you figure that out I am 98% more certain that that's the way things function than this way. That this is really how things function, even though it feels weird. And although everything appears to function this way, that I get sweetness from licking ice cream and I feel happy, that I get joy from in relationship, being next to my partner, that comes from my partner. Even though it appears that way, once you figure out that it's the opposite, then you can do something with your life. And then the taste of where that goodness comes from, you can make it last. You can make it grow until you have an ultimate deep understanding. Then you can have it stay permanently onto an experience that forces you to experience everything with bliss, like a Buddha does, and all-encompassing everything bliss, like a Buddha does. Because there ain't no thing that has that nature towards you. So do you hear what I'm saying? Anything that your mind does, which your mind will, because you're in samsara, think that if I just do this, if I do the prayers just right, Saji, no, but Saji, it doesn't matter. You see? It's not that. It's okay.
What's the result? Oh, yeah, the last one.
Your practice becomes dharma.
Yeah, your practice becomes dharma. Yeah.
That's SAM contemplation.
Oh, you saw that in the reading in the Lojong. He said tu sam gom. Yeah, all this stuff that I'm talking about. First of all, you got to learn it. Learn karma. Learn emptiness. Learn ethics. Then you got to contemplate it. Go, does that make sense? What doesn't? Go deeper. Learn again. All of it. Gom it. Meditate it. Gom. Yeah.
I thought you used it for the ultimate.
And
I was trying to figure out the other side.
So you got the next part? Are ready for the second part?
Yes.
Yeah. The second part is something about your attachment to the three worlds, which I'm going to give you a quick commentary first. Refers to what? The three worlds. Come on.
Form, formless.
Samsara. Cool. Why three worlds? Samsara I thought was one.
Oh, desire, form, formless.
Good. Desire, form, and formless realms. Yeah, which the six realms are cool. Sorry if you don't know this stuff, but you look important.
That's the most important.
Yeah.
Not that I'm
Say it
absorbing
without
anything.
attachment.
If you wish to reach nirvana, then you must also seek to eliminate all attachment to the three realms. To abandon your attachment to these three, you must now seek to remember all the problems here in the vicious circle of suffering. First comes the pain of pain, the sufferings of the lower realms. If you really think them over, your efforts in the spiritual life will consume every atom of your being. If they suddenly happen to you, you would never be able to bear it. He who fails in accomplishing the virtue of giving up anything that hurts another being is a farmer plowing the fields of the lower realms for himself. And pity the man or woman who ends up in those realms. Think about the pain of change. People in the higher births fall to the lower realms. The king of the gods becomes a normal person. The sun and the moon pass into darkness. The emperor of the world, the mighty one of the wheel, turns into someone's servant. You can believe that all these things exist because they are spoken in the word of the Buddha. Most ordinary people, though, still cannot grasp that they are true. Look then around you at the world. Of human beings you can see. Rich men turn to poor. The arrogant are humbled. Masses of people are whittled down to one alone. These, and everything like them, are simply beyond our minds. Think of the universal pain. The things you have to do will never end. It hurts to be around many people, and it hurts to be around few, and it hurts to have money, and it hurts to be hungry. Everyone alive is standing in line, and the line moves to the final end. When they reach the front line, everybody dies. But the lines don't end there. You join the back of the line. In the next realm you must go. Pity the man or woman who feels any attachment to the mind and body of a being in this vicious circle of pain. Freeing yourself from all attachment is nirvana. Nirvana is happiness itself. I sing to you of the joy of freedom from two attachments.
Thank you. How'd you like that? Oh, sorry.
Ooh, there's that part.
Yeah.
But did you want to stop?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, part about standing in line.
Right? And then going to the back of the line to go again forward to the
In the
next
next
line.
round.
I'm laughing because it's tragic. I'm laughing because it's serious. And your mind will do, oh, hold on, but tomorrow I've got a meeting and your mind will do that. Please don't let your mind do that until 10 o'clock. Yeah. Try. And then you can go and visit that realm. Yeah. But for now, imagine the possibility that you can break free from that cycle. I'll give you a quick rundown. Attached to the three worlds means here, as you heard, the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm, which in essence is samsara, that wheel of life and death and reincarnation that we have there. I won't go through it too much. The metaphor that he uses here is this attachment to to samsara, to the cycling, that think, oh, my life is the way it is and I'm okay if I can just make this life okay. The attachment to that is like drinking poison. It might taste good now, but it won't later. It won't be good for you later. Thinking that your world cannot change is the problem. So thinking that I'm always going to be human is a problem. Because if things are empty, where does human come from? If things are empty, so this is a big jump, right? We get taught reincarnation in Buddhism and in the West because we're yak herders, right? Of selfishness and credit cards and career and identity. We interpret that with a strong sense of self that I, Hector, will be reincarnated into a dog. So there'll be a Hector dog running around. And that is not the teaching from these wise, highly philosophical, deeply wise, did I just make a problem? Yeah. Beings that teach us these wisdoms that can free us from whatever obsession we have about staying the way we are. So I'll reiterate. He says, in the first attachment, you want freedom from this life, right? In essence, to summarize those four, the bakchaks, the feelings, the culture, etc., we have to be prepared to let go of the way we think about the way we think. Can you let go of that? Can you let go of the attachment to the way we think about life is the way it is? Yeah? The way we think is acceptable. So that's the first one. Here, he's saying, you need to let go. This ain't the only place. You're going to end up the front of the line, and then you're going to go back to the back of the line to get to the front of the line. And this is where the understanding of karma and emptiness applied to reincarnation is vital. Don't think some little soul of yours comes out like a little puff of smoke and goes into the butt of a tiny little puppy and then you're a dog. It doesn't happen that way. There is no dog sitting there waiting for you. You know, soulless little dog waiting. Yeah. A soulless little puppy. You know, it's not like that. And if you think about, you know, one of the problems we have about understanding karma is forced on us. Our projections are forced on us. You don't have a choice when you experience life. You might have a second choice to say, I won't yell now. Yeah? Or I'll punch back or I won't punch back. But you're already annoyed at the punch. You've already had that experience. So that's what I mean, that experience got forced upon you. Oh, she hurt me. I am hurt. Yeah? Forced upon me. Yeah, because if someone goes like that to you, Sometimes you giggle and go, that was fun. And other times you're like, that hurt. Yeah? We do it with looks to each other. It's like, don't look at me like that. Oh, you're looking at me like that. It's just someone's looking at you. You know? Like spiritual correctness. Anyway, correctness, political correctness. I'm getting lost. I'm trying to tell you that the sense of being human or being animal or reincarnation is not, it's not something goes out that's self-existent and goes into something else and then you're that, and all these minds are forever swapping bodies everywhere in some factory that makes soulless puppies. You know? No, it's not like that. And seriously, and this is not to offend a Judeo-Christian worldview, but this harms you. If you think that there is an all-benevolent creator being that dug up underneath Arizona and put hell there because it's really hot, right, with a bunch of machines, and is got ready for you a bunch of experiences that are there to torture you because you didn't do your prayers right, or you couldn't hold your impulse. If you think that kind of creature controls your world, you're screwed too. It's the same as having a mistaken view of reincarnation. Yeah, there is, if you understand karma and emptiness, then what is it to be a dog? And it just takes like 3 minutes. Yeah? 3 minutes. Just like I'm having a nice moment right now, someone calls me up and has a bunch of words, and I get extremely upset, and in 3 minutes my whole world is changed, and I can't enjoy my next moment. The words didn't do that, because the person that spoke the words aren't annoyed like I'm annoyed. They're not disturbed like I'm disturbed. They're not in the words, because otherwise everybody that heard those words, including the person saying them, must be equally disturbed. But if I'm so disturbed that I can't enjoy my next moment, that didn't come from there. Where did it come from? Forced upon me. Yeah? And in a minute, my life changed. And you know this about someone calls you up and says, someone's got breast cancer. And a bunch of emotions come up for you. Yeah? And they should, if they're compassionate and so on. Some people get anger. Some people get passion. Some people get, oh, now I know. A whole bunch of understanding comes along. It ain't in the words. Your world changes minute to minute. And dying, coming to the front of the line, and then being something else is exactly the same. Your mind has a shift of perception, and all this data that we call human world, within a 3-minute span, can be experienced like a different set of experiences. Because it comes from you, it doesn't come from the world. Prove it. Dog walks in, I go, look at this, and he says, or she says, I want to bite on it. We wouldn't dream to want, that wouldn't be our impulse towards this object. Unless you're weird. You wouldn't want to go, no, seriously. You would be weird. If you, no, to look upon this and your first thing is, oh, I want to do that, that wouldn't happen for you. That's what is human. Not that you are human because you have a body. Being human is the collection of perceptions forced upon you when you encounter objects. Flower. You don't think when you walk up to a tree your leg doesn't come up as a second, as an instinct. It does, some of you might. No, but see what I'm saying? That impulse forced upon you by your past karma, that impulse upon seeing the tree wouldn't ever come to you. That is a dog realm. That is an animal realm. An animal realm is a set of interpretations towards the otherwise empty blank screen that is a whole bunch of stuff that is not in any particular way. It's empty of being any of those things. And every single being has their own unique experience of that. I put this up, you're Buddhist. You're like, oh, lovely holy mala. I do this on the train and they're calling me terrorist. They're not Buddhists. Seriously, they're like, oh, jihadist. I see people going, so I don't do it, I do it in my bag. Right? It's not in this. Your mind, and so what makes humans human is that we share a collection of interpretations towards a world. What makes animal? They share a bunch of interpretations towards an empty set of data world. And so 12-year-old kid is saying to us, thanks to Manjushri, attachment to the three worlds, if you don't have renunciation, because if you think that having an okay existence here is going to be what continues, you're wrong. You don't really have renunciation. You might have the first problem, which is attachment to being a dog. Yeah, because you hope in the back of your head you're not going to be a dog. Are you hearing that? Yeah. So, renunciation. Let me give you a quick thing on the three realms. Okay, so this is samsara. It doesn't really look like that. This is a depiction of samsara. You have pleasure beings and near pleasure beings. If you can have a human experience of that, and you can verify that on the same object, a set of other beings have a completely different impulse towards these, then it's reasonable to say somebody could have an even better experience than human, because for human, this will wear out after a while. I'll lose my likeness for this. Yeah? For an animal, they'll have chew toy until they get bored with it. For another being, it might just be bliss for 6 weeks or a year or something to hold and look upon these shapes, and right? But all of them are in samsara. So there could be beings that are having these projections that are better than yours. And there are those that can have worse than yours. And these are the three lower realms. So here, he's saying to the text of attachment to the... What was the attachment to?
Three realms.
Three realms. The attachment to that, he's saying it correlates to just being attached to pain. And he says the pain is the same as the three sufferings. The suffering of pain, the suffering of change, and the all-pervasive suffering, which are equally shared amongst all these beings in samsara. And the suffering of suffering, or the suffering of basic pain, is that in the three lower realms, that's like non-stop pain, non-stop pain. Non-stop pain. That's going back to the line and to the front of the line. Back to the line, back to the front of the line. And they say, and you don't have to believe it as a realm like Acme hell that's underneath Arizona. You don't have to think about it that way. You can think of it that if you had the wrong seeds that would produce a painful environment, then what we project as flower and beautiful, or malas and spiritual, could be viewed as chew toy and salivating, or sneezing when I sniff it, or it could be a death trap for a creature, or it could be some revolting, painful thing. Does that make sense? That's what a hell would mean. A hungry ghost would be never satisfied, never satisfied. And where would that come from? That would come from me being stingy in some way, never satisfying, never sharing, never giving. That's why the essence of all these Lojongs are, if you want your world to shift, take care of everyone else. Because that's where you plant your seeds. Give beings what you want. But trick yourself to think you're really helping them. Forget yourself for a minute. Really care for them. Because when you go past that boundary, where you let go of taking care of me and you genuinely want Richard to be happy, genuinely, for him, you've forced past that selfish thing. If I had a little bit of the happiness that he's going to have, then I'd be good. No, piss that off. You could only ever be happy if he's happy. If you trick your mind that way, then you would swap yourself for others. You would see others as you. That's where all these teachings come from. It's not that you have to think of others because it's good for you, because baby Jesus said so, and then you're going to go to heaven. There ain't no heaven that could ever come from anything other than your projections forced upon you on this set of data. Just like there's a schmucky up and down life called human realm and animal realm, there could be a shitty, crappy experience of this place being worse, and it could be better or best. You could have a paradisical experience of this same thing if your seeds are there. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. So he's saying you've got to get rid of the attachment of being stuck in this cycle. So you've got to think about the cycle. It's attachment to the suffering of suffering, which is just pain. It's an attachment to continuing, to the suffering of change. And it's an attachment to all-pervasive suffering, which is the disgusting part of our mind that when we actually get what we want, when we get everything we want, a minute later we go, what if there was more? Just that, that was nice, but we are so incessant at getting the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. So that's my alarm to finish.
No.
All right. No, that's okay. I want to finish at 10. We only did 2 attachments. If you don't come back next week, then there's a problem. No. I want you to think about that. You get the idea of what he's saying here about what attachment means. It doesn't mean what we think. Yeah? The tiny goodnesses in your life, the idea, the purpose of having a human experience is that you get enough goodness, enough taste of pleasure, enough taste of bliss, and if you have an understanding of karma and emptiness, you want to turn that on, so on, that it doesn't stop. It's not that you shouldn't enjoy ice cream. It's not that you shouldn't enjoy music. Do you see it? It's that all of a sudden, you as a human have had a 6-minute experience of complete bliss. And then it disappeared. We all have that, right? And then, as a human, we have the capacity to understand, I am capable of love. I am capable of goodness. It ran away, but I am capable. My mind can project on an otherwise empty screen a beauty, a taste of ice cream, a hug, a love, a goodness. The point of Buddhist practice is to use the technology of karma and emptiness and expand that, turn that on, not in a selfish way, I will be happy for me only. Because the only way you can turn that on is by making others happy. But if you can have 6 minutes of pleasure, you can have 8 minutes. If you can have 8 minutes, you can have a year. If you can have a year, if you know where the levers are, then you can turn it on so it doesn't stop. And a Buddha, nirvana, the permanent cessation of your mind screwing everything up, nirvana is the permanent cessation of all mental afflictions. It only means that if you have that 6 minutes of pleasure, if you're in nirvana, you have an infinity of pleasure. You have reached what's called nuclear fusion of your mind, where you are forced to continuously experience pleasure. Because every cause for it to break down has been destroyed. And that cause is misunderstanding the world. Thinking that the world comes from this way. How to destroy your world? Take what you want. Why? Because you've just planted a seed in your mind that somebody wants something and I took it from them. They have lack. That got recorded in my mind. That grows into an experience that, oh, I got what I want. Oops, lack. It disappeared. You planted it. You planted the temporary nature of samsara. And you can plant the permanent experience of bliss. Your body and mind are capable of that experience. I leave you with that. I'm happy to answer questions at the end after. Yeah? So let's do a quick dedication. Sorry if it disturbed your mind. Quick dedication. And then next week, on Monday, on Monday at 6 p.m, we can do the second 2, and then next Lojong, which is really fast. You can sit here. You can hang out. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to do the...
I got something.
You can cross the fingers like that. These 2. And with your thumbs, you
I feel like
you
there
can do
needs
that.
to be a
How's
class
that?
on
You can do
this.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Okay. It's going.
Sashi
Ukir Jushin Metong Rira Linchi Nindelyam Hadi Sangye Shindu Niteluadi Edrokun Nanda Shinla Chupasho Idam Guru Ratnamandalakam Niryatayami
Kewa
Digo Sunam Yeshe Zok Shin Sunam Yeshe Lejun Wei Rampa Kuni Dopar Sho. Thank you for listening to ramblings. Now hope they turned on to something in you. Please try and hold on to something that you can use until we meet again on Monday, if you want to meet again. Something practical. I will try. No, you got it. If you're hearing it, you're that close. If you're hearing the words, you're that close. There really is something in your mind that can touch and get an understanding. Really, relax around it. Don't go, I want to get it. Really? Don't, because that doesn't help you. It's like meditation. You want to relax around and go, okay, is it possible, wherever you're at, is it possible that there is another explanation of what's going on here? And if it is, how bloody lucky I am to have that thought come up. Joy, joy, joy. Well, look at all the wonderful people around me figuring it out just like me. They must be weird like me in their head. They want to figure it out too. Joy, joy, joy. I wish Jacqueline gets it. I wish her stops asking questions. I wish. I wish. And so whatever you want for you, give it to everyone else. There is no bigger, more powerful object of your attention right now, if you want to get these teachings, than the people who also want these teachings. So in your mind, just play with the technology. At the end of the day, you're going to get some information in your head. You're going to have to hear it 1,000 times because it's counterintuitive to the impulses, the butt chucks that we came in here with. It's completely counterintuitive to the culture you were born in. It's completely counterintuitive to a world that is based on thinking things exist out there. Yeah, you are touching a technology in your mind that can free you if you can relax around it and help others get it. So don't grab onto it. Yeah, it's not like that. That's attachment. And then there's this dance, right? Things don't exist the way they appear, but that doesn't mean they don't exist at all. And then you're ping-ponged between these two extremes. And that's what these teachings are about. Nobody's going to give you the answer. No Buddha going to give you the answer, sorry. If they could go into your mind and turn it on, you'd already be freed. They didn't. Jesus didn't either. Muhammad didn't either. All these beings had to figure it out for themselves on planet Earth. You have to too. No Savior coming to save you until you plant the seeds for an experience of a Savior coming to save you. And then you will look at all your degrees and all your Mrs. Newies with the big beehive and so on, and you'll say, oh my God, she touched me in a way that, not like that, she touched me. You're going to say something nicer than that. She moved me in a way that made me think about her with kindness in a meditation at the beginning of a Dharma class in a tiny little center in New York City. And I saw her in a way that I never saw her before. It's proof that your mind is changing. There ain't no Mrs. Newey that is an annoying beehive lady or a wise Buddha lady. It's your mind projecting to your history and your reality now. So relax and help each other figure it out. Yeah. Meditate. Okay, thank you.